Okay, so as I was saying, all of the emails I've been sending through is just to phase you in, give you an idea of what's going on so that you're prepared for what will come in the semester. For those of you that have not seen any of my emails, just an introduction. My name is Akila. I will be your online tutor for quantitative techniques this semester. I hope it's going to be a fabulous semester. Hopefully, smooth sailing, no issues. But if there are any issues, I'm here to help. Just give me a shout. You can pop me an email. I have included my email on VC Learn itself. So if you look at the left panel when you go to this module, it has an option somewhere below Blackboard. It says contact your lecturer or your online tutor. You may contact me straight via there. So you'll just click on the link, it'll say send an email. You can contact me there as well. I would prefer, though, that you just send me an email on my email address. I have included it in one of the, I think it was the very first email I sent out to you. But just in case, I'm also going to write it on the screen for you so that you have it on hand. Okay, so that's aqkhan at iie.ac.za. All right, so my name is Akila. As I said, just a bit of background. I have my um, honors degree in business finance. In undergrad, I had done finance and economics, and I am currently in the process of completing my master's. And I laugh because it's actually a complete disaster at the moment. Time management is impossible because I've lectured pretty much all of first semester, day and night, almost every day. So it's been crazy. And I haven't done much. So I laugh because I'm not even halfway done. But hopefully we will soldier on and be done by the end of this year. Pray for me. Remember me in your times of prayer, and hopefully I'll be done by the end of this year. I am doing my MCOM. So these are just my qualifications so that you have an idea of me, how I am in VC. I lecture in the full-time space. I'm at the VC Durban North Campus, and I lecture the same module. So I lecture quat to the second year students, and then I also lecture financial management to the second year students as well as the third year students. So all about finance and statistics. And unfortunately, they did not pay me overtime. So I really have been grinding it out. No stress. So the link, just while you're on that question, in terms of the link, if you are struggling to find the link via Blackboard, so remember there are two groups on this one session. It's the entrepreneurship students and then it's the BCom students. So for the BCom students, you can go directly to Blackboard and you'll be able to find the link for the session. It's an open-ended session, so it'll always be available throughout the semester. But I have also linked it in your more resources folder. So I have put in a heading saying live collab sessions, and you can click on that under more resources and it will bring you directly to the session. The same for the entrepreneurship students. You won't find it under Blackboard, but if you go to more resources, you will find a link that says live collab sessions, and you can just click on that and it will bring you straight to this. So the sessions will take place on Blackboard, but the recordings thereafter, and I am going to discuss it in a bit of detail now, the recordings won't be actually on this platform. You'll find it on YouTube, but I am going to explain that in a bit of detail just now. Oh no. Gosh. Okay, so your module is not reflecting yet. Um, for now, it should be okay because you can send me an email. I'll send you the link for it just so you have it on hand at all times. And then even for the recordings, you can just go straight to the YouTube channel and access the recordings there. So I don't think it'll give you a problem, because even if you don't have access to the module, because the recordings on YouTube, still should be able to access them. So for now, you should be safe, but obviously in the next week or two, they do need to sort that issue out for you. But just pop me an email and I will send you both the link for this as well as the YouTube channel, and you can access both of those easily through that. There is possibly a WhatsApp group. I unfortunately do not engage in that. I'm so sorry. I've had terrible experiences in the past. So I do not avail myself on WhatsApp, but I am very prompt with my email responses. So as soon as you have a question, just pop me an email and I should respond to you very, very timeously. I'm constantly on my laptop, so I can get back to you as soon as you have a query. Okay, so while we're on some of these questions that you have, I'm just going to first for today take you through the housekeeping rules. So here we are looking at just an idea of what the module is about, the learning units to come, the assignments that are due, when they're due, what they cover, the scope of the module, the scope of the assignments, that kind of thing. Just a few housekeeping rules. And then hopefully I will have a chance to get started with a bit of Learning Unit 2's questions today. Okay, I do believe that you will behave, but I still am not 100% convinced. So for now, I'm going to just stick to the emails and we'll see how it goes in the semester. Okay, so learning units, there are 9 of them, and you will see that I have indicated next to each learning unit which respective chapter they are covered in your textbook. I have done that because you will find that the textbook is huge, firstly. It has a lot of unnecessary information, and not all of it is specific to this module. So I have indicated that this is the relevant learning unit and the relevant chapter that you need to refer to in your textbook. It will make it much easier for you instead of you having to go through every single chapter and try and figure out what's going on. So please take note of this. I will upload this document onto your VC Learn as well under more resources. You can access it there. If you look at the modules, the learning units, you have learning unit 1, which is completely theory based. It's called the Introduction to Statistics. It's chapter 1 of your textbook, literally just theory, no calculations at all, which also is quite advantageous in terms of your assignment 1. Then you have Learning Unit 2, which is a section called Index Numbers. That's chapter 14. We're hopefully going to look at that today. I will speak more to this as well when we look at the formula, when I explain to you about the formula sheets, because there are certain formulas from this learning unit that are not included in your formula sheet. So when we look at that in a bit of detail just now, I'll explain to you which formulas are not in your formula sheet. Then learning unit 3 is, and honestly, these first 4, these are the easier of the learning units, and then they start to get progressively tougher as you go along. So it really is in that order where it's from easier to harder learning units or chapters. So learning unit 3 is a lot of maths involved. You have your basic mathematical calculations in terms of data, grouped and ungrouped data. So you have calculations such as your mean, your median, your mode, and so on, standard deviations, variances, those type of calculations. That's chapter 3, learning unit 3 as well. And then chapter 12, which is learning unit 4, is a section called regression and correlation analysis. So this is one of the more enjoyable sections, quite straightforward, quite easy to get good marks in that section. And then you have, yes, I am writing on the screen. Can you guys see the screen, my writing? Is anyone not seeing it? All right, so Ellen, I would suggest that maybe you reload or just join the session again, exit and join again. Okay, then learning unit 5 is chapter 4. So this is where we really start to get into the statistical part of it. So here it's an introduction into your probabilities, which will follow through in the next couple of learning units as well. And this is the point up until which your assignments cover content. So assignment 1 you're going to see is based on the first 2 learning units. Assignment 2 is based on the next 3. So collectively, your assignments cover up until learning unit 5, which means that the last 4 learning units here are not covered in your formative assessments. They will only be in your summative, your exam. But then again, you're going to see that, and I will explain it to you just now, you have the advantage of the structure of the model changing compared to how it used to be last year. So you have the advantage of there being choices when it comes to certain sections of the exam. And this also helps you in a way to eliminate certain chapters when you are studying for your exam. But obviously, I'll explain that in more detail as we get closer to that. For now, it is a mile away. Your exam is on the 1st of December, which is quite a while away. But again, I will explain all of that in more detail as we get closer to that date. So, learning unit 6 is your probability distributions. Learning unit 7 is an introduction to sampling distributions. As you can see, it is chapter 6 and it stops at page 180. This is because it is a longer learning unit, it is a longer chapter, but you are only examined up until page 180, and then you have the last 2, which are hypothesis testing and chi-squared testing. So these are all of the learning units. And if you would like, you can actually download the document from the screen at the moment. So if you look at the top right-hand corner, next to the bin icon, there's a down arrow, which sort of looks like this. And you can download it. You'll be able to access it immediately. Okay, so this is okay, so this is all of your learning units. All 9 of them are examinable, but the first 5 is what's covered in your formatives, your assignments only. Then you have your ICE tasks. So your ICE tasks have already been uploaded onto VC Learn. You will see that I have sent you an announcement, an email. I'm not sure if everyone has, as I said, please can I ask that you regularly check your announcements and your email, because I will be sending out regular announcements, at least 2 a week, or at least 1 a week. But definitely every week you will find some sort of announcement, some sort of notification about a video being uploaded or a worksheet being made available, or when a national support session will be held, that kind of thing. So I have already indicated to you that your ICE task, everything that you see on the screen, I've already detailed in that email regarding your ICE tasks. There are 4 ICE tasks for the semester. They are all multiple choice questions, so you do not have to stress about long questions and so on. They are all based on calculation. Well, most of them are based on calculations and theory here and there, but 99.9% of them are going to require you to have a pen and page on hand, your calculator, and have you do some sort of calculation. They are all due on the 26th of October. So when I say on or by the 26th of October, you have from now until then to complete them. So I do that just because I know that most of you are working individuals, life gets in the way. It obviously becomes difficult to adhere to different due dates as the semester goes by. So, just to have one final due date that you know you have um, enough time to work towards, I personally have found that it makes it easier for students to have one single due date. And then, sorry, let me just have a look at the questions. So I will be hosting the national support sessions. I am the lead online tutor for the module, and I will let you know when those sessions will be. So your first assignment is due on the 1st of September, and I will be having, generally the NSS sessions are held a week before the assignment is due. So most likely towards the end of August, I'll have that session, which is actually just in about 2 weeks' time. Do you have or create? No. So there's no template for assignments. You can handwrite it if you'd like. There's no specific template or format that you need to follow. You can handwrite it, scan it, upload as a PDF. You can type it out in Word if you'd like. I do find that a lot of the time students find it easier for the first assignment to type it out because it's not much scientific notation that's used. But from Learning Unit 2 onwards, probably if you're not very familiar with how to type up some of the symbols that you'll come across, then they do generally tend towards writing it out and then uploading as a PDF. Most likely, yes, I think it is based on learning unit one. So the ICE tasks itself are all based on one specific learning unit at a time. So it's not running across learning units. You're not going to find one ICE task covering learning units 3, 4, and 5, for instance. So it's just one at a time. And I'm pretty sure, I'm so sorry, I can't remember exactly whether it's based on learning unit one, but I'm pretty sure the first one is based on learning unit one. Well, I'm sure I've had worse than that because some students literally have written it out and taken photos with their blanket in the background, with their food in the background, with the TV in the background. So over and above just the handwriting, I've had some very interesting ones come up. Okay, so that's your ICE tasks. And the first assignment is what we're looking at next. This is the first of your formative assessments. And this is 100 marks. I've put in here what your structure would be like, more or less. So I have had a look at the student material to just double check that the assignments are correct. As far as I can see, they seem like they might be correct, but I have checked in with them to just let us know if it is 100% the correct assignments for this semester, because we have had a couple of issues previously. So just for now, I want to say to you, give it until tomorrow. By tomorrow, we should know for sure. It should be correct. If there are any changes, they will upload the correct one by tomorrow, close of business, latest. But for now, it seems like all is in order. So you can access your assignments. They are, you will see based on the structure I've put in here as well, that there are 3 questions in total. All of them need to be completed, so they're all compulsory. The first question is for 50 marks. It's based on Learning Unit 1. It's matching column questions and your multiple choice questions. So that's quite a bit for 50 marks. I think it's about um, 15 multiple choice, and then your 10 questions in the matching columns, if I'm not mistaken. And then there are 2 additional questions. So question 2 and 3 both cover Learning Unit 2. And these are calculations based on your index numbers, and they are 25 marks each. So collectively, that gives you 100 marks for assignment 1. And as I said, it's due on the 1st of September. And obviously 9 p.m. is your cutoff date. So that's assignment 1. Then you have assignment 2, which is covering learning units 3 to 5, so 3, 4, and 5. I indicated this to you on the page prior to the one before this, where we're looking at the learning unit. So 3, 4, and 5 is what is covered in assignment 1. So it's not a situation where they're going to backtrack it to learning unit 1. So from learning unit 1 and 2, and then also 3, 4, and it's just 3, 4, and 5. It's also worth 100 marks. There are 2 sections in total in this assignment. Section A is worth 60 marks, and there are 2 questions which are both compulsory. This is based on Learning Unit 4 and 5. which is your linear regression and correlation and your basic probabilities. And then section B is worth 40 marks, but there are two questions where you are going to choose one. So you're not going to answer both of the questions in section B, but you will see that in the assignment as well. And this is based on Learning Unit 3. So Learning Unit 3 is one big section that's broken up into two. It's group data and ungrouped data. So your assignment allows you to choose between the grouped and ungrouped data, and you will just answer the one of them, and that's 40 marks. So please don't answer both. I did have situations last semester where students answered both of them and wasted their time unnecessarily and efforts. Please make sure you read carefully when it comes to those. And then your second assignment due date is the 28th of September, also 9 p.m. So both due in September, the second one just towards the end of the month, but obviously within the same month. So just bear in mind. And then the last bit is your exam. So this is covering all 9 learning units. And this is 120 marks. Now, the structure here is quite important. So I will reiterate this in the NSS ahead of the exam, and I will send out information via your announcements and emails just to reiterate as well. But just to give you an idea, just for now, so that you know what will come, you have 4 sections in your exam. The first section, A, is an entirely compulsory section. So this is what 60 marks. There are 3 questions, 20 marks each, and you will need to answer all of them, as I said, completely compulsory. So that's half of your paper, 50% for section A alone. Then the remaining 50% comes from section B, C, and D. And here you'll find that each section is broken up into 20 marks to make up the remaining 60. Each section also has 2 questions within it. You will choose one. So from section B, there's 2 questions, you'll choose one. Section C has 2 questions, you will choose one. Section D has two, you will choose one. So collectively here, you're just doing one, one, and one, and then you have all 3 at the top. So you are only answering 6 questions in your entire paper. All right, so your exam is 2 hours. It's naturally written on campus, and the date for it is the 1st of December at 8 a.m. So nice and early for that one. Okay, so I was saying to you earlier that I am the lead online tutor for the module, which means that I will be hosting the national support sessions ahead of your assessment. So prior to your assignment 1, prior to your assignment 2, it should be a week or so before the assignment needs to be submitted. I will host a session where I'll take you through the assignment, give you a general idea of how to go about answering the questions. Wherever you have questions, I will answer them. So please do come prepared with any questions that you might have. And the same with your exam. So for your exam, I will take you through a previous year's paper and we'll look at a general idea of the type of questions you can expect, the scope, as I said. Generally, there should be a brief that's released. Even if they don't give you one, I will give you something that will give you an indication of how you will be examined. Okay, any questions from your end? I am not sure about the WhatsApp group. I will check with, I'll send out a general email to find out if there is a WhatsApp group. And if there is, I will make the link available as well. The, I'll post an announcement telling you that this is the link for the WhatsApp group and you can join via there. If there are, okay, so at the moment there's no WhatsApp group. Is there anyone that I can allocate the job to? Can someone create that WhatsApp group? Let me see. Can I just randomly select a name from Gaston? I think it's going to be you. can I ask you to create that group for me? I honestly just went with the person that was most talkative on the group. Thank you. Okay, so if you can create that group for me and send me an email with the WhatsApp link, I will distribute it via your announcements as well, and everyone in the session can join. I'm not sure if there's one that's already been created for the course as a whole because there are several groups. But if I do hear of anything, I will also let you know about that. Um, okay, in terms of I think it was Neo who asked, can we have regularly weekly sessions? Unfortunately, we cannot. Not a personal thing, just how it works with the online campus. We are actually not allowed to have weekly sessions. It has to be bi-weekly. So unfortunately, we're not going to have weekly sessions, but whenever we don't have a session, actually something place every second week on a Wednesday evening. It's just that because yesterday was a public holiday, I decided to change it to today. Actually, I didn't have a choice. They just told me to do it today. So it will be on a Wednesday evening at 6, not a Thursday. And it's just particularly because I have load shedding at 6 on a Thursday and I don't want it to affect our sessions. Thankfully it's not affecting it now because I do have a backup, but I just, to be safe, I'm going to have it on the Wednesday evenings. And in the weeks that we don't have a collab session, I'm going to be sending you recordings that I have previously done. It is going to all be available on the YouTube link. So you would have seen the email about the YouTube link. I never thought I'd see the day where I'd say I have a YouTube channel, but you need to subscribe to my YouTube channel and you need to look at that regularly for updated content. So I will send out an announcement saying I've uploaded something, please access it. You can listen in on it in the week that we don't have the collab session. And this is just to get you by for the time that I don't have a session with you. Obviously, because we're not having sessions regularly every week, it is too long of a time frame between when we have a session versus the next time that we have a session. So I will be regularly sending you content. It is extremely useful content. It's exactly the same type of thing that I would do in a live collab, but I'm doing it's in a pre-recorded session and just making it available to you. So what I'm going to do is obviously it will be up on the YouTube channel itself, but I'm also going to link it under the folder. I'm going to create a folder and I think I've already done it, but I'll just double check with that. Under your more resources folder, I'm going to create a folder that will say additional videos or additional collabs and that kind of thing, some type of heading. So I'll let you know as soon as I have created it. I will create something like that and I'm going to link every single video. So I'll say, for instance, Learning Unit 3 Part 1. And you can literally just exactly how this would work. You can literally just click on the link and it will take you straight to the YouTube channel and you can watch the video there. So I'm going to put it in order and it will be labeled specifically so you can find specific learning units easily. You're not going to have to look around to find a specific learning unit or specific content that's covered, and it'll be all in one folder so you can refer back to that at any point in time. So the same will apply to the live collabs we have. So as soon as we are done with a live collab, I will download the recording and I will put it onto the YouTube channel because it does get deleted after some time from the Blackboard platform. So I will download it, I'll put it onto YouTube for you, and I will link it under that folder as well. So you can go back to it at any point in the semester and listen in on that. The same with the national support sessions as well. I'll download them, make them available on YouTube. If you want to go straight to the YouTube channel, you can do that. If you want to go through through the VC Learn folder. You can do that as well. But obviously, everything will be available and it will be easy for you to locate all of that. Okay, so I think that's it in terms of the general idea I wanted to give you in terms of the module. Any questions? Any other questions? All right, cool. So I am going to get started with the first. Sorry, I'm just trying to project it for you. Honestly, I have no idea. Oh, sorry. Let me look at the other questions. Okay, podcasts. I have no idea about them, honestly. I haven't looked at anything. I haven't searched for anything. I haven't had students ask for them prior to this. So if you do come across anything, please do let me know. But honestly, the main reason that I have not come across them or looked for them in particular is because I don't want to sound conceited, but I do feel like I provide enough of support and content and videos that will explain relatively well where you're not going to find yourself lost at any point. Or even if you do, then this is what these live collab sessions are about. So, although I do come into the collab session with an idea of what I will be covering in it, and most of the time it's practice questions, it's examples of the content that we are covering in that particular week. I also want you to come with your questions. So it's supposed to be an interactive session where you can let me know whatever questions you have. If you feel like you're uncomfortable about something or you have no idea, you can let me know and I will help you and guide you along the way. So if you do find any podcasts, do let me know. But up until this point, I have not personally come across any or looked for any. I mean, I'm sure I'd come across them if I looked, but I have not felt the need to go in that direction. Sorry, one more thing that I wanted to let you know about is the worksheets that I will be going through in these collab sessions. So I just refer to them as revision worksheets because sorry, let me just read that message. Okay, cool. That's fine. No stress. I do understand there are other sessions taking place, that kind of thing. Okay, so yes, as I was saying, the worksheets that I go through in these sessions, I just refer to them as revision worksheets because they're just additional examples of the content that is covered in a in terms of the learning units that we're going through. You'll see that I've also put up a pacer giving you an idea of what will be covered in each collab session, what should be covered in the weeks that we don't have a collab session, that kind of thing. So over and above the the messages keep popping up, so I just want to okay, no questions. Oh, sorry, Ellen, you had a question. Yes, I'm discussing that now. So in terms of the worksheets that you see up on the screen that we will be going through in the live collab sessions, I have already uploaded the first two learning units to the revision folder under the More Resources tab. So if you go to the module, again on the left panel, More Resources, see a folder within it labeled revision. I've uploaded learning unit 1 and learning unit 2. As I said, these are just examples giving you an idea of the type of questions you can expect in both your assignments and your exam, exactly the type of questions that you can expect. So most of them are either taken from a past paper or your textbook, so they're an excellent indicator of what to expect. They are extremely useful please download them. If you are attending a collab session live, like now, you can download it at the moment. Again, just like I said to you earlier, on the top right hand corner of the screen, you'll see next to the bin there is an icon that has a download arrow that looks like that. When you press that, you'll be able to download it immediately. So you can do that if you like. Alternatively, as I said, it is already available on Learn. So ahead of the content that will be covered in a particular session, I will upload that worksheet for you, and we will work through that worksheet during the session. And if you have, what I'll also do over and above that is I will upload. So generally, I will try to complete all of the questions that I have on the worksheet in the live collab session. But if it's going way over the time, then it should be going, than the general normal 1 hour. And the reason I'm saying way over is because a lot of the time you have other collab sessions that are taking place that starts, immediately when this one ends. And also we are specifically asked to stick to the 1 hour and not exceed it. So if I find that it's just going to take me about 5 or 10 minutes more, then I'll just complete it. But if I find that it's not going to be just a few minutes, then I will upload the solution of it for you to VC Learn. But overall, and all in all, I'm going to try as best as I can to complete the questions that I am uploading for that week. Okay, so let's get started with the one that you see up on the screen. Okay, perfect. As I go along, please feel free, if you have any questions, to pop a question into the chat. You can also press the raise your hand icon at the bottom of the screen and stop me. I'm happy to answer your questions. Please do ask questions if you feel like you are confused. And I will also be uploading the formula sheet for this module together with the statistical tables that you will be needing. So for now, for Learning Unit 1, 2, you don't actually need the statistical tables. That only actually comes in later on. For now, your formula sheet, you will need to have a general idea of. I'm going to upload it so that you know what to expect in terms of the formulas. And you'll see that, and I will let you know once I've uploaded it. I'll send you an email saying that it has been uploaded. You'll see that, and if you recall, when I started with this and when we were discussing the learning units, I said to you that for learning unit 2, which is your index numbers, you'll find that there are some formulas that are not included. So I'm going to tell you which formulas those are as we go along that are not included, because you do need to learn them, because this is one of the sections that is compulsory in your exam. So it is important that you're aware of those formulas that are not in the formula sheet. You will be given the formula sheet in the exam. Yes, correct, Ellen. There will be a formula sheet with your assignment. It's the same one that you will get in your exam. But again, as I said, some of the ones for this learning unit are not included in that formula sheet. There's 3 that are included, or I think 4 that are included in the amended one. And then the remaining 4 are not there. So I'm going to identify those. I'll tell you which those are. So actually, I'll point it out here, but when I upload the formula sheet for you and I send out an announcement to say that it has been uploaded, I'll also include it in that announcement to say that, just a reminder, these are the 4 formulas from index numbers that are not included. Also, you're going to see Learning Unit 5, which is your basic probabilities. None of the formulas from that learning unit are in your formula sheet. So that's also a section that you will need to remember. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started with this. So this is a section called index numbers. Now, you can read about it in more detail if you want to know in more detail what it's about. But just to give you a general idea of what index numbers are about before we look at the calculations. This is where we're looking at the change in either the price or the quantity for specific items. So you're going to find that, for instance, you have, just to give you an idea of something real world, when it comes to an index number, it's your CPI, your consumer price index, or your inflation, which is telling you that the price of goods are changing or services are changing over time. So essentially, what we're looking at with index numbers is how does the price of an item, either one single item or a number of items, how does it change over time? Or we're also looking at, and you'll see that there are two separate categories here. We're looking at how does the quantity consumed of either one single item or a number of items change over time. So an index number in general, as I said, is just looking at how does the price or quantity of a specific item or number of items change from one period to another. Now, as I said, we have two categories. So you have your price index numbers. They're also just called price indices. And then you have your quantity index numbers or quantity indices. So here under each one of them, as I said, you have your quantity index numbers or quantity indices. So here under each one of them, as I said, you can either be calculating it for the one single value at a time, or for a number of items, which is referred to as a basket of items. Yes, now I am sharing the screen. It is the worksheet that I am referring to, that I was referring to earlier. Are you unable to see it? I'm also writing on the screen. Thank you. I would suggest again to please exit and join again, or maybe just refresh your page. It should pretty much, I think it should sort out. But if you're not having any luck with just refreshing, then exit entirely and then you can join again. It should be sorted after that. All right, so as I was saying, and I'm just making them headings here so that you're able to identify as we go along, that you have price index numbers or price indices, and you have quantity indices. I just want to highlight. So price indices, quantity indices, that's your two categories. Within them, you can either calculate a price index for one single item, or for a basket of items, a hypothetical basket of items, just another way of saying more than one item, so multiple items. And then you have a single item for your quantity index, and then also the basket of items here. Is there another video of Learning Unit 2 other than the worksheet? You mean an additional one that I will be uploading? Okay, I'm going to continue while you answer that. So the first question here says to you, refer to the table below. And in the table, they have the year from 1990, then to 97, 98, and then 1999. And then they have the price of milk in the next column. And they said to you to calculate the single price relative. So here, your single price relative is pretty much exactly the same thing as what I had written at the top here, which is to calculate the price index for one single item. So another way of saying a single price index is to say a single price relative. So the word index is the same as the word relative. So please make note of that. The word relative and index are used interchangeably. They mean exactly the same thing. Please don't be alarmed when you see the one or the other. And as I said, they could also just use the word indices instead of index. So here to calculate a single price index, and this formula is in your formula sheet, it is calculated as P1 over P0 and it's multiplied by 100. Now, P1 is always going to be the current period, and P0 is referred to as the base period, meaning the earliest period for which you were given a value. So in this case, in terms of the values that we are given here, the base or the earliest period for which you are given a value is 1990. So the value of 8 is your value for P0. This P0 value never changes. It will always be P0, but P1 can change depending on the year that you're actually calculating the value for. So if you were asked to calculate the single price relative for the year 1997, then you're going to say that for 1997, P1 is the value in 1997, so that's 13 over P0 will be the 8, and that's multiplied by 100. So here, when you write down your final answer, which is 162.5, although you're multiplying by 100, which technically will give you a percentage, you're not going to write it as a percentage at this point. So please make note of that, and I will write it down at the top here, that when you calculate your index value, do not show it as a percentage. Now, at this point, you are not expressing it as a percentage because it's just an index number or value, not a percentage. When you make a comparison to say that the price has either increased or decreased over the period of time, that's when you will convert to a percentage and look at what was the percentage increase or decrease. So for now, I'm just going to calculate them. I will do the explanation or the interpretation just now. So we did 1997. Let's do the next year, 98. So for the year 1998, as I said, the base value P0 will always stay the same. So that's still going to be 8. Even when we do the 1999 year, the base will also still be 8. That never changes. The only thing that changes is the P1 figure, the numerator, because this is going to depend on the year in which we're calculating the index number for. So for the year 1997, the value for the price is 13. So that becomes, oh, sorry, I did that one already. We're looking at 98. So for the year 98, the price is 17 now. So your numerator will now be 17, and that's 17 over the earliest price, your base price of 8 multiplied by 100, and that's going to give you 212.5. And then the year 99 is going to be the price of 21. And the year 99 is going to be the price of 21. And that's over the 8, the base price. So 21 over 8 times 100. And that gives you 262.5. All right, so this is your index numbers, your single price relatives calculated for each of the years 97, 98, 99, using the year 1990 as the base year. So now you've done the calculation, you know that this is what your index value is. Now you're looking at how to interpret that, meaning what does this actually mean? What does a 162.5 mean? What does a 212.5 mean for 1998? What does a 262.5 mean for 1999? So this now is where you bring in the percentages. So what you're going to do is this final answer that you've calculated, the 162.5 for the first one, so the year 1997, you're going to compare that 162.5 to 100 and work out the difference between it So the difference between those two values is 62.5, and it's higher. Remember, 162.5 is higher than 100, which means there was an increase of 62.5%. So when you interpret, you will say that therefore between 1997, so actually let's start with the earlier year. So between 1990 and 1997, the price of milk, and this is exactly how you'll interpret, and you almost always are required to interpret. So between 1990 and 1997, the price of milk increased by 62.5%. So that's where your percentage comes in, where you're making a comparison between the year that you are referring to and the base year, and you're indicating that this was a percentage increase or decrease. So you can use one standard interpretation. So for instance, if you're looking at between 1998 and the base year, you would say between 90 of 97, between 1990 and 1998, the price of milk has, and now let's look at 98. So the year 98 was 212.5. So you're going to compare 212.5 to 100. That is an increase of 112.5. And you're going to then say that this is an increase of 112.5%. So to read out that interpretation, you'll say between the year 1990 and 1998, the price of milk has increased by 112.5%. And then the same for the year 1999, it's 262.5. So here again, you're going to work out the difference between, sorry, just want to erase so I have some space here. So 262.5 less 100 tells you that the increase was 162.5%. Remember, as long as it's higher than 100, it will be an increase. If it's lower than 100, it would have indicated a decrease. So here you will say between the year 1990 and 1999, let's alter those figures. The price of milk has increased by 162.5%. And that's it for the first question. Any questions there so far? Oh, sorry about that now. I just saw your question here. It is the Applied Business Statistics textbook. It's a black textbook. It is a bit big. Um, it's a bit thick, but as I said, not all of it is relevant to the module. You are going to find that it's only specific chapters that you need to refer to. As I said, I will upload this document which tells you exactly which pages, sorry, which chapters are relevant to each learning unit. So it's the third page of the slide of that presentation I had up earlier. I will upload it for you to VC Learn, and then you can just have a look at that. But you can also check it out in your module guide. The module guide will also have exactly which chapters are specific to each learning unit. Yes, the fourth edition should suffice. There's no difference in terms of the content of the textbook. It's pretty much the same content as the previous version. It's just that VC itself previously had this module structured differently. So the structure was changed at the end of last year. So now the structure is a bit different, but the content itself is exactly the same. All right, so let's look at the next one, which is your quantity relative. Not for the quantity relative. We didn't get to that calculation yet. For the price relative, when you are making a comparison to interpret. So basically, when you're doing this part at the bottom, I'll highlight it for you. When you so the way in which, and I'll backtrack a bit here to just show you how the process will be carried out. To calculate, like in question one here, they said to you calculate the single price index. The formula you'll use is the one that's up here, P1 over P0 times 100. So you will always start from the year after that initial period. So here, the earliest year was 1990, and then after that, they started with 97, 98, 99. So you can never calculate a an index number for the base year. The base year is basically always going to have an index value of 100. That's why we always compare to 100 when we're working out the percentage change. You will always start from the years after that base year. So for instance, if you look at here at the bottom in this example, you have the year 1999 and the year 2000. The earlier of the 2 years is always your base. So 1999 will be the base year. 2000 will be your current year. So always just look at which is the earliest of all the years. That will be your base. And then your calculations will start from after that. So once you knew that that was the formula, P1 over P0 times 100, you calculated that for 97, 98, 99. Your answers, which is in the final column here, you will just leave as is. Don't make them percentages. Leave it exactly as the final answer would be. And then only when you are interpreting now, and here I was doing the interpretation for each one. You will be required to do it for each one. So here you said between the year, and we're looking at the last 1 year, so the year 1999. So we're saying between 1990 and 1999, the price of milk has, and we looked at the actual figure for 1999, which was 262.5. We work out the difference between that and 100. As long as the number is higher than 100, it would indicate an increase. So we said that the price of milk increased by, and now you need to work out the difference, which was 162.5. So it increased by 162.5%. So question one, it depends on whether they're asking you for, like here, they asked you to calculate this for all of the years, 97, 98, and 99. If they are asking you to do it for, like, you can see here about 2 to 3 years, then it should be about 8 marks in total, because you would be calculating for a number of years and commenting. So your interpretation is generally for about 2 marks, and then the calculation itself is also for about 2 marks. And then it depends, as I said, on how many years or how many items you're calculating it for. So generally, it should be about 8 marks or so. You'll see in your assignment, I think it is 8 marks per question. All right, so let's look at your next one, which is your quantity index. So your quantity index, do we always interpret? Sorry, let me just look at that. Yes, always a comparison to the base. Basically, always a comparison to 100. Never a comparison to the previous year. So the next one is your quantity relative. So they said to you refer to the table below and calculate your quantity relative. So they've given you the years 92, 93, 94, and the respective quantity in the next column. So this is looking at the quantity of shares that were purchased. And immediately of these 3 years, the earliest year is 1992. So that would be the quantity in the base period. That would basically be, like we saw P0, it will be Q0, the quantity in the first or earliest year. Now, to calculate a quantity relative, the formula for that is Q1 over Q0, and it's multiplied by 100. So almost the same as the price relative that we did just now, except for because we are looking at, so almost the same as the price relative that we did just now, except for because we are looking at quantity instead of price, it will be Q1 over Q0 multiplied by 100. So again, Q1 will always be the most current period that you're referring to. Q0 will always be the base, which is, as I said, the earliest of the years that you've been given information for. So the earliest of the years we said was 92 here, 1992, and that would be Q0. Now we're starting with the next period. So that would be 93. So to calculate the quantity relative for the year 93, this will become Q1. So that's 19,064 over Q0, which is 12,320, and that's multiplied by 100, and that would give you an answer of 154.74, which you'll leave as is. And then you can do the next year, which is 1994. Remember, the base stays the same as the earliest year's figure. So that's the 12,320. And then for the year 94, the quantity was 17,782. So that's times 100, and that would give you 144.33. So now you're done with the calculations. Remember, to interpret, you're going to say between 1992 and 1993, the quantity consumed, or the quantity of shares purchased, actually. So this was based on shares that were purchased. Quantity of shares purchased has, and now you're going to look at, did it increase or decrease? So for 93, it was 154.74. Again, it's above 100, which means that it was an increase. As long as it's above 100, it's an increase. So you'll say it has increased by, and you'll just work out the difference between this and 100. So the difference is 54.74%. So now that will read that between 1992 and 1993, the quantity of shares purchased has increased by 54.74%. And then for the year 1994 now, it'll be exactly the same thing, except for where you had the year 93, it'll change to 1994. So you'll say between 1992 and 1994, the quantity of shares purchased has increased by, and now let's look at how much that had increased by. Again, because it's above 100, it is an increase. And that minus 100 tells you that it increased by 44.33%. So it increased by 44.33%. So between 92 and 94, the quantity of shares purchased has increased by 44.33%. Okay, any questions on that one? All right, so I'm going to continue just for a little bit longer so that I can hopefully complete this worksheet. If you do have a session that you need to go to, though, please feel free to leave. I don't mind at all. I do understand. And you can just catch up with the recording afterwards. But if you are happy to stay, please do. I'll be done hopefully in the next 10 minutes or so. So let's look at the next one. So this is, they said to you, refer to the table below again and they've given you the year 1999 in I'm just going to use a pen to circle that because you won't be able to see the color. So 1999 and the year 2000. So between the two, this is your base year. It's the earlier of the 2 years, which would naturally make the year 2000 your current year. Now, as you can see here, as opposed to the calculations we've done so far, here there was just one single item. It was milk and the price of the milk. Here it was the shares that were purchased and the quantity of shares purchased. Here in the table you're looking at, you're going to see that, and even in the table on the next page, here there's 3 items in this table. And in the one we're looking at here, there's 2 items here. So this is a situation where we're referring to a basket of items, or rather a hypothetical basket of items. So it just means that we're looking at more than one item at a time. So because we're looking at more than one item, there's obviously going to be different prices and different quantities that are involved. So if you look at the columns, the respective columns, you'll see that in the year 1999, which was your base year, there is a price and a quantity. Because it's the base year, the price will be the base price of P0. The quantity will be the base quantity of Q0. The base price of P0. The quantity will be the base quantity of Q0. Then for the year 2000, you also have price and quantity. The price will be P1 and the quantity will be Q1, meaning the current price and the current quantity. So now we're going to use this information, and they said to you at the top of the next page. Now, these formulas also, sorry, I'm just going to highlight here. This formula for question 1 that's given to you, this formula for question 2 is also given to you. These 2 formulas for question 3, that's also given to you, but these 2 at the bottom here, these are not given, and you're going to need to learn those. So please make note of this for exam. So you need to learn these 2 formulas at the bottom, and there are 2 other ones which I will point out to you in when I send out the announcement. But I will also write it here. So I'm just going to write it for the benefit of those that are on the session. You have unweighted price and unweighted quantity. These are the only other 2 that you will not have. So the 2 that I indicated up here, and now these 2 that I'm writing down, it's the sum of P1 over the sum of P0 for the unweighted price index times 100. And for the unweighted quantity, it's the sum of Q1 over the sum of Q0 times 100. I'm going to show you how to do those. Actually, let me show you how to do it first before we get started with the 2 at the top. So here you have, and I'm just going to use this example here, number 4, to show you both these 2. So the first one is an unweighted price index. So your unweighted price index, as you can see from the formula, says the sum of P1 over the sum of P0, and you're multiplying that by 100. So in the information at the top here, they've given you the year 2015. They've also given you the year 2016. So here you're going to identify which is the base and which is the current. So which would be the base and current? Any takers? Yes. So 2015, correct, is your base year. 2016 would be your current year. So that would automatically make, yes, correct. So that would automatically make the base price P0, the base quantity Q0, the current price P1, the current quantity Q1. So now you're going to simply look at the numerator for this calculation says sum of P1, meaning add up all the P1 values. So that's going to be, and I'm going to write it above it here, 25 plus 46 plus 63. It's actually quite a straightforward one. You're just adding up all three prices. So 25 plus 46 plus 63. And then it's over the sum of P0. So here's your P0. Here's all your P0 figures below it. So that's 20 plus 35 plus 48. And then you're going to multiply that by 100, and that's going to give you 130. Sorry, let me just erase here. That's 130.097, so that'll be 0.1. And that would be your answer. So it's just, instead of doing one single item, you're just summing them up. So this is only when they say unweighted price index. So sum of P1 over sum of P0 multiplied by 100. So that's the first one. And then again, when you interpret, you're going to compare to 100. So you'll say that between, here it's 2015 and 2016, you'll say the prices of the items in this basket have increased because it's higher than 100, and it's increased by, you'll work out the difference between 130.1 and 100, and that's a 30.1% increase. So you'll say between 2015 and 2016, the prices of the items in this basket have increased by 30.1%. Okay, so that's your unweighted price index. And then your unweighted quantity is almost identical to that. The only difference is that instead of price, you're working with quantity. So it says to you, the sum of Q1 with quantity. So it says to you, the sum of Q1. Okay, I'll show you that now. Let me see if this one actually ends up being a decrease. Then it'll be easy to just interpret using this one. But if it doesn't, I will just explain to you if it is a decrease, how you'd interpret. Literally, just instead of an increase here, you'll say it was a decrease. And if your answer ended up being, let's suppose instead of 130.10, it ended up being 85.19. So you'll just work out the difference between 100 and the 85.19. It's a difference of 14.09. So you'll say there was a decrease of 14.09%. So you still just compare to 100 and work out the difference between the two. And instead of an increase, you'll say there was a decrease. Sorry, that the question that we're working, the one, I'm assuming you're talking about the one at the top. So don't worry about what the question says here. I'm just using the same table to explain to you the two at the bottom. So don't worry about what the questions say here. This is another question just to give you an example, looking at information, how to calculate these two. Okay, so back to the unweighted quantity, it's Q1. So unweighted quantity, the sum of Q1 over the sum of Q0, and that's multiplied by 100. So now we knew that this was your base, that was P1, sorry, P0, Q0, this was your current, that was P1 and Q1. So the sum of Q1, this is Q1, it's summing up all those. So that's 174 plus 52 plus 19 as your numerator. And remember, it's just looking at the Q1 column and taking the respective values from there. And then your Q0 column is here. So that's 109 plus 37 plus 15. And that's multiplied by 100, and that is 152.17. So these will be two decimal places unless they've specified otherwise for any one of them. If they say a whole number, then you'll round it off to a whole number. And then here again, you'll just say between the years 2015 and 2016, the quantity consumed of the items in this basket have increased because it's higher than 100, and you'll work out the difference between that and 100. So it's increased by 52.17%. Yes, that's correct. 100% correct, Job. Your single price relative, your single quantity relative is used for just one single item. And then when it is a hypothetical basket or a number of items, it would be your weighted and unweighted. Okay, so that's your unweighted quantity index. Let's now look back at the question we were actually working with, which was number 3 here. And again, we saw that the earlier of the 2 years was 1999, which was your base. 2000 would be your current. That would make 1999's price and quantity, P0, Q0, 2000's price and quantity, P1 and Q1. So then they said to you that, I just want to highlight here, they said calculate the following using 1999 as the base year, which we already identified. They said use the Las weighted aggregate composite price relative, and then the partial weighted aggregate composite price relative. Excuse me. So the names sound fancier and more complicated than they actually are. It's just a specific formula that needs to be used for this calculation. And these two, as I said, will be in your formula sheet. So you don't need to know those two formulas, but if you'd like to learn them so that it makes it easier, that's fine as well. And then here at the bottom, remember these two you'll need to learn together with the unweighted ones that I had just done just now. Okay, so your weighted aggregate composite price relatives. There's two of them. There's a Las Paris and there's a partial. So there's specific formulas, as I had indicated, that you will need to know. The Las Paris, the first one of them, the formula for it is, so it's also a fraction multiplied by 100. Here you're going to see that P and Q are in both the numerator and the denominator. So here, for your formula, it will be Las Paris. The focus here, although you don't need to actually know the reasoning, the Las Paris. The focus here, although you don't need to actually know the reasoning, the focus here is the word Las Paris and that you're calculating a price relative. And then here, partial and a price relative as well. So this is telling you that It's going to be the sum of P1 times Q0 in your numerator, and in your denominator, it's going to be the sum of P0 times Q0. Now, this symbol indicates the sum. You possibly would have come across that before. And then here, as you can see, you're saying P1 times Q0. And then in your denominator, again, you're saying the sum of P0 times Q0. And what's important to note here is that we're saying the sum, meaning you're going to do P1 times Q0 for each item and then sum it up. So let's have a look at that. So P1 times Q0 over P0 times Q0. I'm going to write it down here at the bottom as well so that you can, actually I'll write it at the top. So it's the sum of P1 times Q0 within brackets over the sum of P0 times Q0, and that's multiplied by 100. Now, P1 times Q0, let's highlight those columns in the table. Oh, sorry, it got deleted from here. Let me just write those down again. Okay, so let me just have a look at the questions before I move on. So we will be using Q1. That's in the next calculation. When we do the partial just now, the second one here, the partial quantity index, we'll be using Q1 for that calculation. You are not seeing my writing. Can anyone else not see my writing? All right, please can I ask that you also refresh your screen? I think it's just a problem overall with, yes, I think it is just the connection. Okay, let me just see who else asked the questions. No, you will not be using Excel. You'll just be using your normal your normal scientific calculators. Is the Q0 on both the denominator because we work with price and quantity? Yes, so it's because we're working out a price relative, Ellen, and not a quantity relative. So the idea behind it, although you don't need to know that idea behind it or explain it, but the idea behind it is that when you're working out a price relative, you have to hold the other variable constant. So we hold quantity constant because we are working with a price relative. Okay, so back to this calculation. We have P1 times Q0 in your numerator. So this is P1. I'm going to circle it because the highlights is not really going to show. So here's P1 in the first column. Q0 is in the last column. So all you're going to do is take the respective P1 and Q0 for train, and I'm going to do it here. So P1 is 7.43. Stick to using brackets because that's literally what the formula shows you as well. So that's 7.43 times 53, the respective P1 and Q1 for train, plus, and this is what they mean by the sum of, for the next item, bus, it's also P1, which is 5.12, times its respective Q0, which is 102. So 5.12 times 102. Then for your denominator, it now says P0 times Q0. So now here's P0, and then it's the same Q0 from the end here that we were working with. So for the first item, it's 6.9 times the Q0, the respective Q0 of 53, And then you have 4.66, which is your price for the bus fare, and that is times 102. And you're done. That is your calculation. When you put that into your calculator, that would give you a value of 108.92. And now when you're interpreting, you're going to say that, and this interpretation is important, so please make sure you're taking it down, or when you rewatch this recording, you make note of it. You will say that on average, the prices of the items in this basket have increased because it's greater than 100 by, so when you work out the difference between that and 100, it's a difference of 8.92%. So it's increased by 8.92%. And this is between the years 1999, and this is between the years 1999 and 2000, holding quantity constant at its base level. Or instead of saying holding quantity constant at its base level, a simpler way of saying that part, and I'm going to highlight the part that you can substitute, you can say, instead of saying holding quantity constant at its base level, you can alternatively say under the Las Paris approach, because you were working with the Las Paris price index. And that would be it. So whichever you prefer, if you are comfortable with saying holding quantity constant, its base level, because as you can see, quantity stayed the same at Q0, which is the base quantity. You can say that. Alternatively, just look at which calculation you're doing, because you were doing Las Paris price index. You can say under the Las Paris approach. That's also fine. So whichever you prefer. No, it most definitely does not. All right, so that was your first one, your Las Paris price index. And then the second one is your Pasha weighted price index. So with your Pasha, the only thing that changes in this entire formula, literally the only thing that changes, is instead of Q0 here, you have Q1. So it's the sum of P1 times Q1 over the sum of P0 times Q1. So here, exactly the same approach, but just P1 times Q1 over P0 times Q1. So I'm going to write down the formula here again, and we're going to work with that. So here at the top, let me just write down that formula. Okay, so I've erased whatever we don't need. And then remember that's P1, Q1, P0, Q0. And then the formula is P1 times Q1 over P0 times Q1. Okay, so let's look at that. So here it is P1 times Q1, and P1 is here, first column, Q1 is the second column. So for the first item, chain, it's 7.43 times 98 plus second item, bus, it is 5.12 times 134. And then for your denominator, it's P0 times Q1. So Q1 is the same here and here, but now P0 is the first part. So for the first item, it's 6.9 times 98. And then 4.66 times 134. And that's going to be 108.73. So that is your final answer there. And in your interpretation, you'll say on average, the prices of the items in this basket have increased. You work out the difference between that and 100. So it increased by 8.73% between 1999 and 2000. And here you're going to either say, whichever you prefer, you'll say holding quantity constant at its current level, because now we used Q1 in the formula here and here. Or if you prefer, as I said, you can just say under the partial approach. Sorry, there's one extra P there. So whichever between these two highlighted sections you want to say, you can. So whichever between these two highlighted sections you want to say, you can say either that one or you can say this at the bottom. Okay, so that is your Pasha and your last period's price index. Let me just have a look at questions. Correct. The first part of your question is right. The last pairs is based on your Q0 and Q1. That also explains the answer to your second question, which is why there's two different calculations. It's because of the fact that under one of them, you are holding quantities constant at its base level while changing the price, meaning you're assuming that quantity will stay the same at its initial base level while the price only changes, and you're assessing what impact that will have. And then under the second one, you are holding your quantity constant at its current level while changing price to see what impact it will have on price. Okay, so let's look at the next one. Sorry, I just want to clear the screen here and write down the years. Okay, so this one is almost the same as the one we just did. Here you have the years 2015 and 2016. 2015 would be your base, 2016 would be your current. You have three items here, and they said to you, using 2015 as your base year, you need to calculate the last Paris weighted aggregate composite quantity relative, and then the partial quantity relative as well. So instead of price, like we did just now, now we're looking at quantity instead of price. So we are assessing essentially what change there will be in quantity. And under the Las Vegas approach, we're looking at, and this is also in line with what I think it was you, Gas. Yeah, was it you, Gaston? Yes, I think it was. Yeah, it was you who also, and someone else as well, in terms of why we're using Q1, Q0, and you'll see now P1, P0. It's because essentially we're looking at what is being tested. And what happens is, and the general idea behind holding a value constant is that because you have price and quantity that can both change, if you're changing both of them at the same time, it's not going to be possible to assess whether the percentage increase or decrease came from price changing or whether it came from quantity changing. You're not going to be able to specifically narrow it down and say that if there was an increase in increase by, let's just say, a random value like 41.87%. If we change both price and quantity at the same time, we don't know what percentage of that was because of the price changing, what percentage of it was because of quantity changing. We're not going to be able to determine exactly what percentage is allocated to each one of them, which is why we hold one constant while we change the other. So when we did the last pair's price and the last pair's quantity, last pair's price and partial price at the top, we held your quantity constant so that we could look at how price changes. Now at the bottom here, we're doing the opposite. We're calculating how quantity changes over time, but we have to hold the other one constant in order to be able to tell how the quantity changed over time. So this is the idea behind these two methods. As I said, you don't need to know that explanation, but just for your own benefit, for you to understand that this is why we're holding one constant while we change the other. And the two levels that we hold constant at is either at the base, if it's a Las Paris, and then if it's a partial, it's at the current level. Okay, so here, no problem. Okay, so here you have the first one, your Las Paris, weighted aggregate composite quantity relative. So this is calculated by taking the sum of P1, P0. Okay, so this is then multiplied by 100. We know what's P1, we know what's Q1, we know what's P0, we know what's Q0. So the formula here is the sum of P0 times Q1 over the sum of P0 times Q0. So let's do that. And again, it's done as one fraction, but you have to do each one individually and then sum them up. Now, this is a major concern because students erroneously do this as they sum up all the P zeros and then they multiply them like here, if you're looking at the top, P0 times Q1. In error, they'll sum up all the P zeros and they'll sum up all the Q1 figures and then they multiply them. This is not correct at all. You need to just do it exactly as you see on the screen, one single formula, each item individually. So for instance, P0 times Q1, here's P0, here's Q1. For the first item, tea bags, P0 is 20, its respective Q1 is 174, so 20 times 174, and that's the first item done. You'll add on the next item, which is sugar. P0 is 35, Q1 is 52. So 35 times Sorry, guys, I got disconnected there for a second. Can you still hear me? Okay, perfect. Thank you. So back to what I was saying just now. Um, we had actually, I just need to backtrack a bit because I see that the writing disappeared. Okay, so the second one was 35 times 52 and then 48 times 19. So then you have the next part of it, which is now your your denominator, which says P0 times Q1. So again, here's P0, and then here, P0 times Q0. Here's Q0. So that's 20 times 109 for the first item, then 35 times 37 for the second item, then 35 times 37 for the second item, and the last one is 48 times 15. And then that's multiplied by 100, and that gives you 148.08. So again here, when you're interpreting, all you're going to say is exactly as I showed you just now, that you can say between, or you can start with on average. Let me just start with on average. So on average, the quantity consumed of the items in this basket have increased again because it is higher than 100, and it's increased by 48.08% between 2015 and 2016, whilst holding price constant at its base level, or you can say under the Las approach. So again, I'm just going to highlight the part that you can choose from. You can say either one of them. So instead of whilst holding price constant at its base level, you can just say under the Las approach, whichever you are comfortable with. And that's the first question. And then the last one of the worksheet is your partial weighted aggregate composite quantity relative. That is a mouthful, I know that, but essentially it's just the partial weighted quantity relative. Okay, so here the formula for that is going to be, sorry, let me just erase at the top. Okay, so the formula for this is the sum of P1 times Q1 over the sum of P1 times Q0, and that's multiplied by 100. So again, all you have to do is now identify, which is your figures for your numerator, P1 times Q1, so that would be P1 here. Actually, let me change the color of the highlighter, so maybe you'll see that. So P1 is here, Q1 is here. So that would be 25 times 174 for the first item, plus 46 times 52 for the second item, plus 63 times 19 for the third item. And then the next part of it is P1 times Q0. So here again, let's highlight. This is P1, that is Q0. So that's 25 times 109 plus 46 times 37 and 63 times 15. So this is now going to give you an answer of 147.78. And now in your interpretation, so I'm going to go to the bit at the bottom for your interpretation. And I'm just going to remove the certain words that was applicable to the previous one and change that for this one. So you're going to say, on average, the quantity consumed of the items in this basket have increased. Change that for this one. So you're going to say, on average, the quantity consumed of the items in this basket have increased by 47.78%, because that was the difference between this and 100. And this is between 2015 and 2016, while holding prices constant at its current level, because it's a partial approach, or you can say under the partial approach. So whichever you prefer. As I said, you can just say, on average, the quantity consumed of the items in this basket have increased by 47.78% between 2015 and 2016, whilst holding prices constant at its current level. Or if you don't want to say that, you can just say, after you say between 2015 and 2016, you can just say under the partial approach. All right, so that's it for today, and that's your learning unit 2 as a whole. You may officially complete your assignment 2, your assignment 1, because it goes up to learning unit 2. So learning unit 1 is just your theory, and learning unit 2 is everything we've just done now. If you would like, you can start with your assignments if you want to get a head start on it. But remember, we also will be having the national support session where I will be guiding you along the way. So if you do have any questions on that, please let me know. I will be going through it in about 2 weeks' time. Any questions other than that? All right, so doesn't seem like there are any questions. Thank you, everyone. I hope this has been beneficial. Sorry, guys, my line just went dead there. As I was saying, thank you. I hope this has been beneficial. Until I see you again in 2 weeks, please look out for the emails. As I said, the announcements on VC Learn. I will also download this and make it available to you so you can refer back to it for your assignment. Yes, correct. The less period and partial are only relevant to your weighted questions. All right, enjoy the rest of your evening, and I will chat to you again soon. Bye, everyone.